We begin the news at this hour with the Federal Executive Council proposing an amendment to the National Identity Management Commission Act number 23 of 2007, which would enable the issuance of national identification numbers to foreigners residing in Nigeria. The Council is also pushing forward the Economy Stabilization Bill aimed at imposing taxes on foreigners living and working in the country. These proposed legislations are designed to expand the scope of registrable persons to include foreign nationals with taxable presence or sources of income in Nigeria. The bills also mandates the use of the national identification number for transactions pertinent to tax administration and other related matters. The federal government has also approved an increase in the monthly allowance of National Youth Service Corps members to 77,000 naira effective from July 2024. In a statement issued by the NYSC's Acting Director of Information, Caroline Embu, the approval was conveyed in a letter from the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission. The letter, dated September 25, 2024, and signed by the Commission's Chairman, Ekpo Nta, aligns with the newly enacted National Minimum Wage Amendment Act 2024. Prior to this increase, Corps members received a monthly allowance of 33,000 naira following the upward review of the minimum wage to 30,000 naira in 2019. The Nigerian presidency has confirmed that President Bola Tinubu will soon undertake a cabinet reshuffle. A special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, made this announcement to State House correspondents during a briefing at the Aso Rock Villa in Abuja on Wednesday. Onanuga said while there is no specific timeline for the reshufflement, the president has expressed his desire to proceed with it. He further indicated that the reshuffle will be informed by empirical evidence from performance reports that the president has received over the past months.
So cabinet reshuffle, let me tell you, I don't have any timeline. The president has expressed his desire to reshuffle his cabinet, and he will do it. I don't know whether he wants to do it before October 1, but he will surely do it. So that's what I will say. He has not given us any timeline when he wants to do it, but he will do it. He has expressed his plan. He wants to do it. He wants to reshuffle. The president actually gave an order to all his ministers to go out there to speak about the activities of his government.
We'll bring you more stories from Nigeria shortly, but first, an update on the 79th United Nations General Assembly in New York City. Vice President Kashim Shettima has welcomed ExxonMobil's proposed $10 billion investment in Nigeria's deepwater oil operations, describing it as a clear testament to the administration's economic reforms and investment-friendly policies. This is coming just as the international maritime giant DP World has announced plans to develop a multi-billion-dollar port project in Nigeria. The vice president stated this during a high-level meeting with ExxonMobil executives on the sidelines of the ongoing 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in York, United States. VP Shettima elaborated on the President Tinubu administration's efforts to ensure ease of doing business in Nigeria. Still staying with more information on that. In the meantime, Zimbabwe's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Frederick Shava, has delivered a speech on behalf of President Emerson Mnangagwa. In his address, Shava underscored the importance of this year's theme, calling it a reminder of the collective responsibility to strengthen global cooperation. He urged the United Nations to prioritize the world's most marginalized populations, emphasizing that sustainable development cannot be achieved without peace. Shava also condemned foreign interference in the internal affairs of sovereign states, stressing that no nation should impose its governance model on another.
Leaving no one behind, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development, and human dignity for present and future generations, unquote, is so relevant and timely. The theme is a reminder of our shared responsibility to build a world that is inclusive, a world that is just and sustainable. It is through collective action, grounded in solidarity and mutual respect, that we can advance peace, foster sustainability, and strengthen multilateralism, as well as uphold human dignity. In this spirit of unity, we must prioritize the most vulnerable and marginalized populations, ensuring that no one and no place is left behind in our pursuit for progress. Sustainable development cannot be achieved without peace, and peace cannot be sustained without addressing the root cause of conflict, chief among them poverty, inequality, intolerance, scarcity exacerbated by climate change, and unwanted and unwarranted external interference in internal affairs of some states. By investing in education, healthcare, and sustainable economic opportunities, we can create resilient societies that empower individuals and communities to thrive.
Meanwhile, Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo delivered a passionate appeal for global unity. He urged world leaders to embrace multilateral solutions to address pressing challenges, including climate change, inequality, and global governance reform. The presidents of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Liberia also shared strong messages during the assembly.
Addressing the session today, Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo decried the treatment of Africa in the global scheme of things. He said the world must view Africa as an equal partner and not as an afterthought. President Akufo-Addo insisted that the UN Security Council, as presently constituted, is not representative of the world and does not reflect current global realities. He said the UN has failed to act decisively in times of crisis.
The structure of the Council reflects a world that no longer exists, and its failure to act in times of crisis raises a difficult question. What is the purpose of the Security Council if it cannot intervene when the world needs it most? Reforming the UN Security Council is a matter of fairness and necessity. The current structure, created in 1945, no longer reflects the realities of today's geopolitical and economic landscape. Africa, Latin America, and South Asia remain underrepresented despite their significant influence on global affairs. This lack of representation undermines the legitimacy of the Council's decisions, and the use of veto power by a few permanent members often paralyzes its ability to act effectively during crises.
Multilateralism and the respect for a global rules-based system have been the essential pillars that have supported peace, security, health, and prosperity the world over the last 80 years.
With the president of the DR Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, also lending his voice to the calls of the others who had spoken earlier, this has become a growing theme by African leaders at the ongoing 79th United Nations General Assembly.
78 years since its formation, the structure of the United Nations Security Council remains largely unchanged. Africa and its 1.4 billion people remain excluded from its key decision-making structure. This cannot continue. The UN Security Council must be reformed as a matter of agency.
The time is right for Africa to be represented at the UN Security Council. We have the numbers, we have the economies, and we have the future. The future belongs to Africa.
With other African leaders who will speak in the days ahead likely to echo the call for reform, it is becoming clear that Africa is bent on making its case. The focus will now be to see if these growing calls would materialize into firm action at the end of the 79th General Assembly. For News Central, I am Chooks Ene.
Well, let's also tell you that the 2024 Global Business Africa Initiative brought together influential African leaders from government, business and civil society to explore economic opportunities across the African continent. The event aims to strengthen partnerships and promote investment in Africa's diverse markets. News Central's Chidima Ona shares more details in this report.
The push for sustainable development in Africa has been a key part of major conversations among African leaders. It spurred the recent Global Business Africa initiative held in New York. In the fireside chat with Aliko Dangote, he emphasized the need to accelerate trade in Africa and enhance agricultural infrastructure.
When you talk about Africa, the biggest thing about Africa is agriculture. So now, how can we talk about agriculture being the biggest in Africa if we don't produce our own fertilizer? You know, so in the last couple of years, in sub-Saharan Africa, we had zero fertilizer production, which is urea mainly. And both ourselves, we now built 3 million tons capacity. There's also another company, Indorama. Indorama also built another 3 million tons capacity. So we're able to make Nigeria self-sufficient, and we're able to serve other African countries, and we export up to US.
We meet at a crucial time.
The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, and Musa Faki, chairperson of the African Union, in their speeches urged African nations to prioritize sustainable development goals, outlining a vision for unity and encouraging international partners to recognize Africa as a hub for innovation and entrepreneurship.
The first of these areas will be unlocking inclusive growth through trade. The African Continental Free Trade Area offers a framework to create the largest single market in the world. And we're going to explore how to break down the barriers, foster economic integration, and build regional value chains, ensuring that no one's left behind, especially our amazing women and youth and our marginalized communities.
From its rich and diverse cultures to its vast landscapes, and the resilience of its people, Africa's story is one of determination, progress, and unwavering hope. Africa is also a continent of economic opportunity and must claim its ambition to drive innovative solutions and contribute facing the world's most pressing challenges.
My country, Nigeria.
In his keen yet gentle speech, Nigerian economist and current serving president of the African Development Bank, Akinwumi Adesina, spoke on bridging several technological gaps between Africa and the world.
We need data. Without data, you don't have AI. So building that whole data ecosystem, and that's one of the things we said we'll do together, is important. Second one is just the skills, right? The skills, we need to have science, technology, engineering, mathematics, have a lot more women or girls actually going into these fields to remove another divide, which is gender-based divide in that particular area. I think that's important.
Initiatives like this that bring together influential individuals and decision makers from various sectors play a significant role in unlocking Africa's ultimate economic potential and sustainable development. In Lagos for News Central, Chidima Ona.
Well, earlier, correspondent Bernard Akede, who is in New York for the 79th United Nations General Assembly, joined us and shared this report.
It was quite an engaging conversation. Unfortunately, we had to leave there at some point to come to the UN building to continue the conversation from here. Now, the lineup of speakers, very, very impressive, and the conversation itself was top-notch. Now, you did mention, yes, that, Mr. Adesina talking about certain things that he wanted to, that the youth should be able to do, and that pretty much cuts across all conversations that have been had. A lot of young people did speak. Mr. Adesina also, I engaged him not long after he gave that speech, and another thing he talked about was a project 300 that he mentioned, where he and some other group of people are looking to bring electricity to over 300 million people across Africa. because knowing that if you want to bring development to any part of the world, the first thing you need to do is to power such places. And now besides that, we spoke to people like Masai Ajuri, the sports, the sports guy who talked about still engaging the youth. We talked to the president of the Africa Basketball League, who also talked about the power of youthful engagement, and almost everybody else. The CEO of Trace spoke about how youths across Africa in the entertainment industry are putting forth so much energy in music, such that African music is beginning to do better than the music in the United States. So he said. However, one thing was common that all these people said, that if the right infrastructure is not put in place, first of all, by the leaders of African countries, such that investors like them can find, a fertile breeding ground for their businesses, not much will be able to be done. So it has to be a collaboration between the government putting down, tangible, so to speak, a proper breeding ground for investors to do business.
Thanks for staying with us. The Senate on Wednesday confirmed the appointment of Justice Kudirat Kekereekun as the substantive Chief Justice of Nigeria following her screening. This confirmation comes after President Bola Tinubu, in a letter read during Tuesday's plenary by Senate President Godswill Akpabio, sought her appointment. In his letter, Tinubu expressed confidence in Kekereekun's capabilities and urged the Senate to expedite the confirmation process. During Wednesday's session, Kekereekun emphasized that all pre-election cases must be resolved at the Court of Appeal. She also expressed a firm stance against corruption in the judiciary, promising to maintain zero tolerance for any form of misconduct.
Put the question. Will the Senate approve the nomination for confirmation of Honorable Justice Kudirat Kekereekun for appointment as Chief Justice of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Honorable Justice Kudirat Kekereekun for appointment as Chief Justice of Nigeria is hereby approved.
I think the first thing in giving my CV, I said one of the things that I'm known for is integrity. I'm also known for being strict on discipline. And therefore, in order to ensure that the integrity of the judiciary is maintained, I will ensure that the code of conduct is fully complied with. I will ensure that there is zero tolerance for corruption.
All the way from the judiciary, let's go to corruption matters now. Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court in Abuja has adjourned the alleged money laundering case brought by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission against the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, to October 30, 2024. The adjournment follows Bello's move to the Supreme Court, where he has filed an appeal challenging the arrest warrant issued by the trial court on April 17. At the proceedings, Bello's counsel, A.M. Aduyi, informed the court that the matter of his client's arraignment is now part of the appeal entered at the Supreme Court. He further highlighted the affidavit of record filed on September 23 in support of this appeal. In politics, former President Goodluck Jonathan has stated that the outcome of last weekend's governorship election in Edo State highlights that technology alone cannot resolve Nigeria's electoral challenges. Jonathan emphasized that the key to overcoming these issues lies in changing the human mindset, expressing concern that many Nigerians still have a negative attitude toward politics. He called for a shift in the citizens' approach to governance and electoral processes. The former president made these remarks in Abuja during a program organized by the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution and its partners in commemoration of the International Day of Peace. Jonathan further noted that the ongoing struggle for power remains a major driver of conflicts across Africa. earlier. Political analyst and former national coordinator, Middle Belt Patriots, Zariyi Yusuf, joined us for more on this.
Coming from former President Goodluck Jonathan, I couldn't really agree more. And from his place, he did mention something about attitude. I would say that he demonstrated something, even though he wasn't a perfect president, but he demonstrated something that gives him the moral ground to say what he said, which I agree with 100%. I was not part of, and I'm still not part of those who would celebrate simply because there is technology, there is the use of beavers and all of that. It's unfortunate that we are in a situation where the process, the system itself has been perverted. As a matter of fact, not only would I say that technology would not solve the problem, but I would say that even a free and fair election under this perverted system will not work, will never reflect the will of the masses.
Well, away from that, as Nigeria grapples with childhood diseases and increasing cases of zero-dose children, UNICEF is ramping up its efforts to boost immunization coverage, particularly in undeserved regions. Speaking at a media dialogue in Lagos, UNICEF's Chief of Field Officer for Southwest Nigeria, Celine Lefebvre, reiterated the importance of vaccinating every child to close health gaps. She also lamented that 2.3 million Nigerian children, predominantly in the marginalized areas, were unvaccinated, saying that there was a need for concerted efforts among stakeholders to enhance routine immunization and reduce zero-dose children. She added that UNICEF, in partnership with the government, had prioritized 100 local governments across 18 states with the highest concentration of zero-dose children in increasing the immunization uptake.
Good morning, media friends. I'm coming to you, unfortunately, today with a very sad news. We still have a very pressing challenge in Nigeria where 2.3 million children still have received no vaccines at all. You'll remember that in UNICEF, we call those children zero-dose children. They are mostly in marginalized areas, hard-to-reach areas, and vaccines remain essential to their health. They remain an essential fundamental right to every child, and they remain fundamental to improving health outcomes and reducing inequalities. To address this in Nigeria, UNICEF, together with the government and valued partners like yourself, we have prioritized 100 LGAs across 18 states with the highest concentration of those zero-dose children that need us. They need us right now. And in collaboration with you, with yourselves, we now need to join hands to accelerate the rate of immunization in Nigeria. What we want to do is very simple. We want to ensure that by each year, we increase the rate of vaccinated children by 15%. We need to have reached 30%.
Christian leaders in Nigeria urging the government to hold accountable those instigating civil unrest and fostering disunity within the country. This call was made during the 2024 Nigeria Caritas Day celebration in Abuja themed Giving Back to the Community. News Central's Joshua Marayi has a report.
The 2024 Caritas Day celebration with the theme Giving Back to the Community kick-started with the Thanksgiving Mass at the Catholic Secretariat Chaplaincy in Abuja. Addressing newsmen after the Mass, the Catholic Bishop of Okari Diocese urged relevant stakeholders to champion peace-building initiatives among citizens.
Nigerians are so divided, and most of these conflicts are motivated by division. So they will need to do a lot in terms of peace building, peace education, and also to work on data gathering. Our people suffer a lot, but we don't know the extent of this suffering, the level of the suffering of our people occasioned by poverty, by bad governance, and by other natural and other factors.
While bemoaning the current state of insecurity in some parts of the country, he urged government to take charge of governance and bring instigators of civil unrest to book.
I think there's something really wrong with governance in Nigeria. There seems to be absence of governance. For us to move forward as a country, I think we have to come back to the drawing board.
The Executive Secretary of Caritas called on Nigerians to touch the lives of fellow citizens with empathy and compassion.
So I want us, my brothers and sisters, maybe I'm preaching about it, but that's what I think that will be the lasting legacy, that we are moved to compassion for people's needs. As much as it's possible for you, you may not be able to do everything, but as much as it's possible, do not leave anybody asking for your assistance without some little support.
The Caritas organization called on government at all levels to focus on humanity in all their policies and activities. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
After the break, we'll talk about ASU and the federal government as they issue fresh strike alert. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the education sector, the Academic Staff Union of Universities has issued a 14-day ultimatum to the federal government to address unresolved issues dating back to 2009. In a statement on Wednesday, ASU President Emmanuel Oshodeke called for the swift conclusion of the renegotiation of the 2009 FGN-ASU agreement based on the Nimi-Briggs Committee's 2021 draft agreement. ASU also demanded the release of withheld salaries from the 2022 strike, expressing frustration over the government's perceived lack of commitment and use of delay tactics. The union warned that these actions are fueling a crisis within the public university system. Staying in education, primary school teachers under the Federal Capital Territory Administration's Local Education Authority on Wednesday barricaded the entrance to the Abuja Municipal Area Council in protest. The teachers, who turned out in large numbers, alleged that area councils within the FCT have failed to pay around 60% of their salary arrears for the past 25 months, despite numerous appeals for payment. News Central's Joshua Marai has more.
Primary school teachers under the Local Education Authority in Abuja. These teachers are protesting over an unpaid salary backlog of about 25 months.
We are here to express our displeasure over what the area council chairman is doing to us. The primary school teachers are being neglected. We want to appreciate the Honorable Minister of FCT, who has agreed to help the area councils, and he paid 40%. And he said the remaining 60% the area councils should go and pay. But as I'm talking to you now, none of the area council chairman has paid a dime.
My deputy just mentioned the 25 months minimum national minimum wage arrears. In addition to that, the earlier primary school teachers have not been paid the 35,000 naira wage award. Their counterparts from the UBEB and SEB have been enjoying theirs since the implementation.
They say all attempts to speak with the chairman of the Abuja Municipal Area Council have remained unfruitful.
Whenever we come to seek for our dialogue with our chairman, he never gives us audience. Like today, before today, we have met, 2 weeks ago, we have met with the director, admin, AMAC. So why we are here today is to remind them, to tell them that we have come to occupy a space. If other counterpart of UBEB, that is Universal Basic Education teacher, will be enjoying benefits, and these teachers are our junior. Like me, I am a deputy chairman teaching in the school, and my allowances, my rights are not given. Then what do you expect me to do?
The demands of the teachers under the aegis of the Nigerian Union of Teachers here in Abuja still remains the same. We are demanding that their 25 months of arrears being paid for them to return back to the classrooms. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Still staying with education, in the meantime, students at the Federal University of Transportation, Daura, have been cautioned against drug abuse and examination malpractice, emphasizing the importance of adhering to the university's rules and regulations. This warning was issued during their recent matriculation exercise, the first of its kind since the university began academic activities in 2023. News Central's Amadine Uyi reports.
The first matriculation ceremony of the Federal University of Daura in Daura, Katsina State. Since its commencement of academic activities, the university a specialized institution has been unable to hold a matriculation ceremony. Members of the university senate, including its students, were all adorned in their colors. The vice chancellor of the university urged the matriculating students to be law-abiding and abide by the rules of the university.
I would like to call on the student to make sure that they abide by what you call the matriculation oath. Because today, as you formally become members of this prestigious institution, I urge you to embrace the core values that this university stands for, as they will not only guide you through your academic journey, but will also shape you into the leaders of our great nation tomorrow.
He urged them to keep away from drugs and examination malpractice.
You must therefore avoid all forms of social vices such as drug abuse, cultism, examination malpractices, and stealing, and be the good ambassadors of your family. I admonish you to utilize the opportunity provided to you by the university and your parents.
The students took time to express themselves with a dance, displaying Nigeria's unique cultural heritage. Some of them say the occasion will forever remain a memorable one.
It was very impressive and interesting actually, because for a while, since we've gotten to school, we've not been matriculated, and now we are matriculated, and we are really happy about the matriculation. And we are really appreciating the effort that the VC is making to see that, yes, the school is progressing and more achievement will be coming by the grace of God.
We are very, very happy, and after we take this oath, we will try to see that as we embark this journey, we will try to see that we have unlocked our enormous potential. That is to graduate with best results.
The university was established through a partnership between the federal government and the China Civil Engineering Construction Company. It remains the only specialized transportation university in West Africa.
Civil society groups, which include legal practitioners, scientists, and academies, among others, are calling on the government of Nigeria to hold plans to introduce genetically modified potatoes and ban GMOs, as it is a violation of human rights and a disaster for the Nigerian food system. According to the Executive Director of Health of Mother Earth, Mimo Bassi, any further release of GMOs in Nigeria would jeopardize the health and degrade the environment. Potatoes are also banned in Peru and spawned in developed countries earlier this year. The Nigerian government officially launched the genetically modified, high-yielding maize varieties in the country amidst a worsening food insecurity. However, many farmers are still resisting, preferring their seeds. Well, joining us now very quickly to discuss this, I do have with me a food sovereignty advocate and public health scientist, Joyce Brown. Joyce, welcome, and thanks for being here with us on News Now.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Great. Now, what are the key reasons cited for the call to ban GMO imports in Nigeria, and how do they reflect the concerns of the general public?
Thank you very much for that question. There are a number of reasons why Nigeria should actually ban GMOs. And talking about the public perception, the approval for telomeres particularly raised a lot of issues, raised a lot of dust, had so many people speaking out against GMOs and for a preservation of the Nigerian food system. And some of the reasons cited are with respect to contamination of Nigeria's genetic resources. We will have our seeds contaminated because these genes, these newly introduced genes, are able to move from one plant to another, of course, due to pollination, which can be by insects, by wind, or even water, right? So that's one issue, the contamination of our own indigenous seed varieties over time. Another is an economic implication, whereby with most of the GMOs, productivity reduces over time. So after the first planting season, farmers would record reduced yields. So there was recently a report that was published where, because the BT cotton was introduced based on or with the argument that they wanted to revive the Nigerian cotton industry. But farmers have come out to say that after how many years of planting this cotton, of course, the cotton industry is not revived, is even worse off. Productivity is reduced. And so the farmers are saying they want to discontinue with the cotton. And when that cotton was approved, HOMEF and a number of other organizations did kick against it. There were several objections that were sent because the same cotton was introduced in Burkina Faso where it failed and farmers rejected it. So there is an economic implication where productivity will reduce, and to solve that, farmers are advised to go to buy new seeds each planting season. And we know that will not mean well for our farmers. It's more like we are giving over control of our seeds, over control of our food system to these corporations. Then there are the environmental implications, where some of the processes of producing these GMOs, some of the antibiotic markers that are used, some of the processes actually cause harm to soil microorganisms. So in that report I cited, where cotton farmers were speaking up against the GM cotton, they also said that the soil has become less fertile. So after planting that cotton and you want to plant other crops on that farmland, the soil does not perform well. The soil is less reproductive. That's because the microbial life, the microbes in the soil, the beneficial microbes have been destroyed. And also on that, there are crops that are made to be herbicide tolerant. Right, so we have the crops that are designed to themselves act as pesticides, where the gene from bacteria is introduced into these crops. For example, the beans we have now in Nigeria, the BT cotton I've been talking about, have this gene introduced in them to produce a particular toxin that should kill off insects when they try to attack them. But then there are the others that are made to be herbicide tolerant, such that you plant them on a particular field, everything else can die off except the crop that is genetically modified to be resistant to it. And these chemicals, there are thousands of cases in the USA, for example, where this chemical has been shown to cause cancer, and the courts have, decreed that the companies responsible, the companies producing them, pay lots of money, thousands of dollars, or millions of dollars rather, to these people that are affected in form of damages. And these chemicals, of course, are in Nigeria. And the active ingredients in the chemical is actually glyphosate, which is in not just the one they call Roundup or the ones they call glyphosate. Glyphosate is seen in so many other pesticide brands that are all over the markets in Nigeria, right? So we find that instead of reducing the use of herbicides, like some promoters of GMOs say, GMOs actually increase the use of these herbicides, and these have environmental implications. They would destroy the beneficial microorganisms. They would affect the population of bees, and of course, they can end up contaminating even drinking water sources. So there are a whole lot of reasons why Nigeria should not continue on this path for GMOs.
All right. I want to say thank you so much to Joyce Brown for joining us, food sovereignty advocate and public health scientist. We look forward to see where this would lead to, especially looking at the fact that a lot of persons are talking against the use of GMOs. In West Africa, prosecutors in the Republic of Benin have confirmed the arrest of 3 prominent individuals, including the Presidential Guard commander, on suspicion of plotting a coup d'etat. The other 2 suspects are Oswald Homke, a former sports minister, and Olivier Boko, a businessman with close ties to President Patrice Talon. The special prosecutor at Benin's Court for Financial Crimes and Terrorism, Elon Metonu, said the alleged coup was planned for Friday, September 27, 2024. According to Metonu, the commander of the Republican Guard responsible for the president's security was allegedly enlisted by Homke and Boko to forcibly overthrow the government. The authorities are continuing investigations into the suspected plot.
Dans la nuit du 23 au 24 septembre 2024, un peu après 1h du matin, l'ancien ministre des Sports, M. Oswald Romeki, a été interpellé au moment où
The European Union has announced the release of $6 billion in humanitarian aid for 6 West and Central African countries grappling with deadly floods. According to a statement from the EU delegation to Chad, the funds will assist the most affected populations in Chad, Niger, Nigeria, Cameroon, Mali, and Burkina Faso, where torrential rains have caused widespread devastation since the start of the rainy season. The International Organization for Migration said the flooding has claimed over 1,500 lives, impacted more than 4 million people, and displaced 1.2 million across these 6 countries, as well as Guinea. The Central African justice system has announced the arrest of the leader of a rebel faction, PRNC, Gregaza Nod. The rebel is being investigated for serious human rights violations claimed by his armed group. In a press briefing, the deputy public prosecutor at the Tribunal de Grande Instance in Bangui said further investigations and prosecutions have been opened against Gregaza to establish his responsibility in the commission of the multiple cases of serious human rights violations claimed by his armed group.
Le parquet de la République près le tribunal de grande instance de Bangui tient à informer l'opinion publique nationale et internationale de l'arrestation de nommé Gregaza Nour, de nationalité centrafricaine, poursuivi pour complicité de meurtre et d'assassinat. L'arrestation de Gregaza Nour est intervenue en exécution d'un mandat d'arrêt international décerné par les autorités judiciaires centrafricaines dans le cadre de l'entraide judiciaire. En état actuel des poursuites, des investigations complémentaires sont ouvertes contre Nour Gregaza en vue d'établir sa responsabilité dans la commission des multiples cas de violations graves des droits humains revendiqués par son groupe armé.
And that's all the news we have for you this hour. But before we go, a quick look at some of the major stories. The federal government has proposed NIN and tax requirements for foreigners. The European Union has released $6 million in flood and also aids for West Africa and Central Africa. We also told you that Central African Republic has announced the arrest of rebel chief in Bangui. Do follow us on all socials. We are at News Central TV and watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times 274, Open Havens Prime, Avo TV. You can stream live on YouTube and on Facebook. I'm Joe Hanson. Have a very good morning.